I don't know where you go after I sucked my cousin's dick until I was 14 years old.
Like some African Americans, they hate Jews.
If one black person robs you, that don't mean all black people are robbers, right?
No. That's not back, is it?
I don't know. It's back for me. I like saying it. Does Donald Trump have to uphold the Constitution?
You start the book, the new book, talking about Kanye. I'm gonna guess you're a little bit sick of this guy by now. I think a lot of people are sick of this guy by now. But you're the one person that I feel like I can ask this because you have some experience with him. How can a black dude be a white supremacist? I don't get it.
You asking me? I have no idea either. I think that's one of the most confusing things that we've ever witnessed. The only time that we think about it like this, it's so confusing that the only time we ever even saw that premise was on Dave Chappelle when he did Clayton Bigsby and when Aaron Magruder did The Boondocks with Uncle Ruckus. So it was done in satire. So to see it really play out in real life to the extremes, don't get me wrong, you've always had what people call, coons or sambos, right? But for him to be walking around with, a KKK uniform on and it's all black, or the White Lives Matter shirt, you're only doing that to agitate people who are screaming Black Lives Matter. So you go out of your way, to piss off the black community and to say things that will cause the black community to get in an uproar. When he was on Drink Champs and he was talking about, George Floyd, and he was repeating all of the, right-wing conservative talking points about how, they feel George Floyd passed away because he had fentanyl in his system and stuff like that. So it's for you to go out of your way to be a black white supremacist is actually insane. It's almost like insane. He's like an Oreo supremacist. Is that what you would call that? What would you call that? It's just strange.
It's so weird. It makes me, I shouldn't laugh, but I guess it's just so ridiculous. It's so over the top, and yet it's not even meant as a joke. It's not like he's tongue in cheek with it. He's totally serious.
But you shouldn't take it personal because Kanye is one of those people that's tried everything to offend folks.
Yeah.
He's been anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
He's been a black-white supremacist. I've never seen somebody crave attention the way that he has. This guy literally went from my mom, God bless the dead, was a lesbian 1 week. That didn't get the pop he wanted. So, hey, guess what, y'all? I sucked my cousin's dick till I was 14. Literally the very next week, I sucked my cousin's dick till I was 14. So you're just trying on gay now?
Yeah.
You're cosplaying and cosgaying? Is that what you call it? You're cosgay now? Literally. Just because you're looking for a certain level of attention. I don't want that. I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm craving attention that much.
No healthy person does, though, and it's interesting because you talk a lot about therapy, and we'll get to that. One of our last shows was all about therapy and mental health. This is a guy who either doesn't understand or craves it so much that he doesn't care that he just goes, negative attention, easier to get, I get more of it, I'm going to do that. He doesn't, most of us, the healthy, positive attention, I'm a little uncomfortable with it, but it's okay. Negative attention, I avoid that because that's what normal people do, right? And he's just like, nah, I don't care.
Man, it's hard for me to have empathy for Kanye, and I'll tell you why. Because I've heard him talk about his perceived struggles with mental health before, but then he plays hokey pokey with it. Sometimes he'll tell you, I got bipolar, or I'm dealing with depression, right? But then no, I'm not. No, I'm not. So it's
I see.
It's and you're a person who you're aware, first of all, you're aware that something may be going on, and you have every single resource. You have access to the best resources to, get the help that you claim you needed at one point.
Yeah, you could hire the best therapist in the world.
The best. I saw him complaining about being 5150 one time by the Kardashian Jenners. I don't know if that was true or not, but even if it's not to that extreme, you can go get some type of healing if you want it.
Yeah.
You're choosing not to. And what you're doing now is you're projecting whatever hurt and trauma you have onto everybody else. And it's just it's hard for me to feel sorry for a person like that because in a lot of ways, and I'm not here to diagnose nobody, but it's just in a lot of ways, I'm like, if you're that self-aware and you're that strategic, and methodical about how you choose to fuck with people, how mentally ill are you really?
That's interesting. It's like, you're right. I'm not a doctor. I don't know much about it. 5150, for those who don't know, is what, like involuntarily committed, basically like a psych hold.
Yeah, somebody they call people on you and they come lock you up. But like I said, I'm not trying to diagnose him. If that brother needs some help, I really truly hope he gets it. But it's hard for me to have any type of empathy when I've heard him talk about his mental health struggles, but he's not actually going out there to do the work to try to get better. Like he said, what you just said, you're choosing.
Yeah.
You're consciously intentionally choosing to with people.
Yeah.
And you could be consciously and intentionally choosing to go get some healing.
That's true. It's probably a hell of a lot harder to go, I got to look in the mirror every day with a therapist for an hour and get to the bottom of all my trauma. It's probably harder to do that than to be like, you know what? I can get my publicist to make this blow up, and then I can deal with the fallout of that, and I can ignore the fallout of that, and I can blame my ex-wife for this.
That's right.
I'm good.
It's easier, to me, it's way easier to go get help, go get on your healing journey, than it is to constantly come up with new ways to garner attention. Yeah. I don't know where you go after I sucked my cousin's dick until I was 14 years old. I don't even understand the context of what he was trying to say. Like, it's just strange.
It makes no sense to me at all. I've seen like some African Americans, they hate Jews or whatever. And I'm used to that. I've met a lot of, when I worked in Detroit, there was these Nation of Islam guys or something like that. And they would say, they kept telling me how much they hated Jews. And I was like, my mom's Jewish. And they're like, well, that makes you a Jew. And then they treated me different. I didn't like it. That was like my first experience with, I guess, racism, anti-Semitism.
Well, it's interesting. My father was a Jehovah's Witness, and he got into the Islam and the Nation. So I've been around the Nation literally my whole life. One of the first books that my dad gave me was the autobiography of Malcolm X, which I love. I love that book because it shows that Malcolm Little can evolve to be someone like Malcolm X. And the thing I love about the Nation is they have always taken, those of us who have submitted to the worst in us and made us raise up and submit to the best of us, right? So, a lot of people submit to the devil in them, but the Nation of Islam makes you submit to the God in them. And one thing that I've always loved, because the autobiography of Malcolm X led me to, read Message to the Black Man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who I think is just, one of the greatest humans to ever walk the face of the earth, just because of the community he built called the Nation of Islam. But what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would always say? Learn from Jewish people. Study Jewish people. They practice unity and group operation. So I didn't grow up with the hate Jew thing. I don't know. I don't know where that came from. And I think that's a narrative that I know for a fact a lot of people in the Nation do not carry. And I think the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gets a lot of flack, because if you listen to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which I have been for my whole life, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan calls out everybody. It's like he's not saying all Jewish people are bad, just like he doesn't say all black people are bad. He calls out the people in the black community he feels are holding us back, and he calls out the people in the Jewish community who he feels are, holding progress back. But, you see rabbis and, people come to the mosque all the time and, build with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
I never understood. I don't know a lot of the teachings. I'm glad to hear you say this, because I thought it was surprising, because I'm not super Jewish, but you always grow up hearing that we are like really closely related as Semitic people. And I know that's different with Nation of Islam, but it doesn't matter. It's the religion. So it was surprising. And also I didn't understand what that was based on. Of course, I didn't know anything about the Arab-Israeli conflict when I was 17 years old. You know what I mean? So it was very odd. And I remember they wouldn't let their wives talk to me. And then even though we worked together, it was like this weird thing where I had to talk to them. Yeah, they were like, my wife's not allowed to talk to you. And I was like, all right. So I had to talk to them to tell their wife something. And my boss ended up being like, this is a huge pain in the ass. I was a manager at one point, and he needs to be able to tell you what to do. And you can't be telling her husband, who's not at the same site or whatever, to tell you to do, it doesn't work. And then I ran into those, what are they called? Black Hebrew Israelites? Yeah. That was next level, because I was like, oh, hey, this is cool. You guys are Jews. And they were like, this is not cool, buddy. I was like, oh, never mind. I thought we were going to have fun over here with this.
It's interesting with that, too, because I feel like a lot of individuals feel that if we say, hey, where Black Israelites are, where the real Jewish people, then all of the great things that Jewish people have been able to accomplish automatically, magically just gets transferred to you because, like, I'm serious. I really think that's people's mentality.
That's interesting,
and I think that's where a lot of folks' frustration comes into play. But this is what I always say, man. It's like, don't generalize a whole group of people because you might have had a bad experience or have a false narrative of one person. Like if one Black person robs you, that don't mean all Black people are robbers, right? You know what I'm saying? If you had one bad experience with a Jewish person, that don't mean all Jewish people are evil and out to get you. Like, and I really do not like the broad generalizations. But you know, that right there is something I've thought about. I really feel like a lot of, you know, Black people feel like, hey, if we are the real Jews, are the real what do they say, Israelites, Black Israelites, then we should have the benefits that Jewish people have. I really think they think it's just some like magical transfer.
Yeah, it's weird. I never understood it. I mean, look, as I think a lot of Jews agree, our numbers are small. We can, if you want to join the club, we should come join the club, man. But you know, probably don't be like
that's what I love though.
Huge assholes about everything.
I'll be the first to tell you. You know, when I look at, you know, the number of Jewish people in this country and what Jewish people have been able to accomplish, it's inspiring to me. I don't know what to tell folks. You know, like I believe what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said.
Yeah. Study
Jewish people. They practice unity and group operation. I used to live in a Jewish neighborhood in New Jersey, and it was so peaceful on Saturday. It was so quiet. It was so peaceful and quiet on Saturdays. And, you know, there's just certain things I just respect. I like observing other cultures and seeing how other people move. And you cannot make me believe that a whole group of people are terrible just because of a narrative. Like, you know, because I wouldn't want nobody to look at Black people like that.
For sure. Now, that makes sense. That does make a lot of sense. Whenever I talk about this on my show, it's pretty rare. I mean, I've done it like once or twice. I'll get a lot of show fans who are from Nation of Islam. What do you say? From Nation of Islam? How do you say that?
Nation of Islam.
They're from the Nation of Islam. They'll be like, I don't even know if I believe it. Or they'll be like, this is rare. And I've heard that so many times that I believe it because those people have no incentive to lie to me. I mean, but they're tweeting at me or something.
I know they don't. I think that is one of the greatest false narratives about the Nation of Islam, that they hate Jewish people.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's the exact opposite.
This was like one chapter in Detroit that was just spreading that stuff for sure. Because I met all those folks and they really all had the same narrative, but they all went to the same, I guess, mosque or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just one place.
When I tell you I've never heard that, don't get me wrong, it's definitely a social media thing, right? Yeah. But it's like I've been to the mosque several times. I never heard that. I go back to what I was always originally taught. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, learn from Jewish people. Study Jewish people. They pool their resources. They practice unity and group operation. They operate as a community. Literally, the Nation of Islam was modeled off of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, as long as it's not like a dog whistle for Jews control the world, fine. You know, because sometimes people use it as like a little code, like, yeah, see, they do group operations, and it's like, oh, that's good. Or it's like, they group operations, huh? They're all a secret network, you know? Like, that's like what...
You know, we had Jonathan Greenblatt. We had Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, on the Breakfast Club a couple of times. And we had those conversations like, yo, where does the narrative comes that Jews control Hollywood? Yeah. There is history behind that, right? But it's because nobody wanted to be in Hollywood. Yeah. Like, literally, the Jewish people went out to California and established this industry that nobody wanted to be a part of, you know? But as far as they're controlling the media and they're controlling all of the images that people see, and, you know, all the negative narratives about everybody are because of these wicked Jewish puppet masters. It's like, all right, come on, man.
Yeah. It is definitely a bridge too far. I mean, a lot of cultures have this. A lot of people, I can only really speak for the Jewish part that I know about, but one of the reasons the Jews became bankers was because it was against, I think, certain religions in those areas at that time to lend money for interest. And the Jews were like, oh, well, we'll do it because there's a gap in the market. And then it was like, oh, look at them loaning money predatorily. And it's like, you're the one borrowing it. It's against your religion. You need us to do this. Or like, look at their international trade. Yeah, because you won't let us have other jobs.
I remember the first time I heard that story and I was like, so you're upset because they did good business?
Yes.
Exactly.
Like,
what? That's kind of just, it's just strange to me, man.
I had a buddy who was kind of anti-Semitic for a while, and then he stopped. And I said, "What made you change your mind?" And he said, "I realized all the reason I didn't like Jews was all the reasons that you should actually just admire Jews. Like, they do good business. They operate as a group." He's like, all these things that made me angry, I realized were like, I should probably be doing that.
Yo, do you know I got in? I'm not gonna say trouble because it wasn't no real trouble, but
Yeah.
there was a backlash about maybe like 5. It was whenever Nick Cannon had got into his situation.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, he got let go from Wilding Out for a brief moment. And I remember I was on Breakfast Club and I said, man, this was around the time of Breonna Taylor and it was another.
She was the one who got shot by the police while sleeping with her boyfriend, right?
Yeah,
and they just kicked her door down and shot her.
It was Breonna Taylor, and there was another case that was going on. It might have been the brother that was running through the neighborhood. I don't remember. But I remember saying, I was on the radio, and I said, man, because Nick Cannon got fired like quick.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, man, this just proves how much power Jewish people have, and I can't wait until we get that kind of power, meaning black people, because we can't even get the people who kill us fired.
Right.
Talking about the police officers.
I know. I find that also completely insane.
And it became like, there was all of these different Jewish outlets, and they were like, Charlamagne Tha God is, it's what was it, anti-Semitic propaganda, saying the Jews have power. And I'm like, that was a compliment. I wasn't saying that to insult nobody. I was saying that I cannot wait until we can have that kind of power to where we can get the people who kill us fired.
I mean, it's hard to disagree with that. Like, if somebody, I think, look, there's people who believe all cops are bastards or whatever that the saying is. If these people are out there murdering people in disproportionate numbers, like we all need the power to get people who are abusing authority fired. It's just that it's very hard to do if you are African American right now. Like, that's just the way, and that's the way it is. So I understand what you're saying. I feel like they spun that deliberately to get clicks. That's some bullshit.
Yeah, that's what I said. It wasn't really. That's what I said. It wasn't really anything that there was any backlash over. It was just like, wait a minute. But also that's how me and Jonathan started talking. Me and Jonathan, I'm like, yo, you got to explain to me why this is.
Yeah,
bad.
Like, what did I step in, and did I really step in it?
Yeah, but he explained it. He was like, that reinforces a lot of negative tropes about Jewish people. But listen, like I said, man, I don't like generalizations.
Yeah,
because I'm a person who has had the beauty of growing up around a lot of different individuals. Like my growing up in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, I grew up on a dirt road, and all my friends on the left were black. And then my first white friend, who's still my friend to this day, Thomas Evans, and his family was on the right. And my dad and Thomas would, literally be outside drinking their beer. And if somebody came down the road and like one of the big pickup trucks with a Confederate flag, both of them, Jimbo was white and my dad was black. Both of them would be like, look at them crackers, right? You know what I'm saying? So it was like it never was about anything other than the environment that we were in. It was a class thing.
Yeah.
And man, I've had the luxury and I guess the privilege of like having so many different people help me throughout my life. Yeah. The first person who ever hired me in radio literally gave me a paying job was a gay black man named Haji Jenkins in Charleston, South Carolina, right? And me and Haji would be together all of the time, because I was in the promotion department. He was the head of promotions. I didn't care he was gay. You understand what I'm saying? I like as you grow in the business, the people that you meet who see things in you and see things in you that you may not see in yourself and want to help you get to that next level. Yeah. They're white. They're Jewish. They're black men. They're black women. It's like, it doesn't matter. I like energy.
Yeah.
What's your energy like? If me and your energy mesh, if me and your energy click, we good. Any narratives or stereotypes or generalizations, I'm not with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, that has served you super well throughout your whole career. You write about it a lot. I always got to laugh when I hear Moncks Corner because, one, it sounds like a fake place. Like, why do they call it that? And then also, you're in one of your books or one of your shows you did with me, you talk about how people would end up under the tree. And I was like, oh, that's a metaphor. And you're like, no, they literally are sitting under a tree.
That's my dad. My dad would say, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're going to end up in jail, dead, or broke sitting under the tree.
Yeah.
And those are things that I saw early on that made me realize, like, yo, my dad is right. There was people around me that was really going to jail. Mm-hmm. I went to jail myself. There was people, that was, really dying around me. Mm-hmm. And there was people that I used to look up to that was literally broke sitting under the tree. So I'm like, oh, that ain't generalizing.
No.
This shit can literally happen.
Yeah,
right?
this is real.
Absolutely.
Real potential consequence. I know you're a huge Judy Blume fan, which people might be like, what? Tell us who that is, because I know she's an author, but I can't remember. Isn't that Dear Goddess Me Margaret?
Yes.
Yeah.
Judy Blume is the greatest young adult author ever. The only person that's even close to me is Beverly Cleary.
Oh, yeah.
But Judy Blume wrote Are You There, Goddess Me Margaret. She wrote Blubber. She wrote Forever. She wrote Super Fudge.
Super Fudge, that's right. I remember reading that.
Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing.
Yeah.
Like Judy has written so many
Legend.
So many fantastic books. One of my favorite Judy Blume book is Iggy's House. But the reason I got into Judy Blume is because my mother was an English teacher, in South Carolina. And so we also had the Book It program. And, you had to read four.
You get the stars, then you go to Pizza Hut.
Boom.
That's right. I had that. I loved that.
Boom. So you had to read 4 books to get a free pizza. You get your 4 stars, and, you can get your pizza. And so I used to run through books, and the best advice my mom ever gave me that stuck with me even past literature was when she said, read things that don't pertain to you. Because we all tend to do that, right? Like we all grow up in our bubbles. We all grow up in our echo chambers. And so we only kind of like stick to the things that are in that box. And she would always tell me, read things that don't pertain to me. So that's what made me get outside of my box, right? To not only communicate with other people who don't, come from the same environment I come from, or who may not be the same color I am, or gender, whatever. And so I started reading mad Beverly Cleary and Judy Blume, because when I would be in the library, the opposite of me was these little white girls and these little white boys that was on these books. And so I would read everything. And the thing that made me fall in love with Judy Blume was her storytelling ability. Yeah. That's what I'm into, Jordan. Like, I like storytelling. That's the reason I love hip-hop, right? That's the reason I love country music. That's the reason I love movies. Like, I love books because of the storytelling aspect. And so, I have sang Judy Blume's praises for as long as I can remember, to the point where one Christmas, she sent me and my daughter an autographed copy of Are You There, Goddess Me Margaret. And I thought it was my team. Me. I was like, come on, she didn't sign this. Like, because there's 2 autographed copies. And then the movie came out. Well, the movie was coming out, and they were having a screening for it in New York. And they was like, hey, Judy would like for you to come, see her. I'm like, y'all really, why y'all with me? And they was like, no, we want you to come see, Judy wants you to come see her. So I went. And I met Judy, and I met her lovely husband and her son, and it's just like we've developed a relationship since then. And I've flown down to Key West a couple of times, and had dinner, me and my wife, with her and her husband, and we've I went down to the premiere in Key West of Are You There, Goddess Me Margaret, and we communicate. Like we did when Simon & Schuster had their 100th centennial event. Me and Judy did an event together on stage. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's just like we have a relationship,
That is unexpected. I don't think a lot of people would see, like, middle-aged black dude hip-hop show and is like, yeah, I love Judy Blume and Beverly Cleary.
She's a great, but I look at Judy Blume the same way I look at Jay-Z. I look at Judy Blume the same way I look at Killer Mike, Scarface. She's just a great storyteller. I'm telling you, my favorite Judy Blume book is Iggy's House. I want to bring Iggy's House to, like, the big screen or something. Like, if you ever read Iggy's House was like her first book, and Judy's she asked me all the time. You don't think this book is, you don't think it's like could be taken wrong now in 2025? Like, I'm like, no.
I don't even know what that's about. What is she worried about?
Iggy's House was about a young girl named Winnie who lived in a neighborhood in Michigan. And her best friend's name was Iggy, but Iggy moved. And so the neighborhood was anticipating who is going to be moving in this new house. Iggy's family never told anybody because they wanted it to be a surprise, and it was a black family. And so this black family moves into this neighborhood, and they are experiencing a lot of racism from a lot of the people in the neighborhood. And Iggy is like, the white ally before there was white allyship. Like she's the person who was like standing up for this family and supporting this family. And then she had one of the brothers in the family was like, get out of here with your white savior complex. Like, it's just Judy was so ahead of her time. Oh my God. Yeah. She was so ahead of her time because, Winnie was woke, right? Yeah, she was what you would call a woke, liberal person, like railing against her father, and because her father had racist. I don't want to say he was completely racist, but he had racist tendencies. He had a little sprinkle of racism, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have a problem living in the neighborhood, but y'all stay over here.
Yeah.
So I love Iggy's House. I think it's a fantastic book. But yes, I love Judy, man. It's been a pleasure to be able to build a relationship with her and call her a friend.
I know you had social anxiety when you were a kid, and I guess a lot of people probably don't see how that is possible because of who you are now. What did that look like when you were growing up?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question because of who I am now.
Yeah.
I created that character, Charlamagne Tha God, to protect Leonard, because Leonard was the person dealing with all the, social anxiety and, the bouts of depression. Leonard was the person who was just, trying to fit in when he was in, 6th, 7th grade, because he was tired of getting bullied by his older cousins, right? Because he wasn't the so-called tough guy. And it got to a point where it's like, yo, if you can't beat him, join him. It literally was like a villain origin story. Like, they used to bully me so much, my glasses used to always fall off. And one day the glasses just fell and hit the ground and just broke. And so I just squinted my way through thug life, right? I was like, you know what? I'm just going, if I can't beat him, join him. And so the character that was created when I was 17 was, I guess what I wanted people to see me as, so to speak. So if I created this character, it'll distract you from the guy with these anxiety and these bouts of depression and these insecurities, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what has been one of the great joys of my life, in recent years, is allowing Leonard, who's gone on this journey, this healing journey since 2016, going to therapy and, plant-based medicines and doing all of these different things to fix a lot of that unhealed trauma. It's been a pleasure to watch that person and, Charlamagne actually meet each other.
Yeah. The alter ego is blending in with the real identity or whatever.
It's like Smart Hulk.
Like what?
Smart Hulk.
What's that?
Oh, you don't know Smart? You're not a Marvel guy? Oh, yeah. Smart Hulk is when Bruce Banner.
Oh, Smart Hulk.
Yeah, Smart Hulk.
Sorry, I don't know what I thought you said.
Yeah, it's when Bruce Banner and the Hulk finally combined.
I thought you said Smart Hulk or something. I don't know what. It's that Monk's Corner accent.
You thought that was a slur?
Yeah, I was like
what slur is that? Should I even be saying that?
I might have to edit that out. I got to Google it and then remove it. We talked in depth about a lot of the therapy. That was episode 171, which is kind of funny because this is probably like 1,371 or some episode. But last time we hung out, 2021, you told me you were getting rid of Twitter and other social media, which I haven't. I didn't look it up, but I think you've mostly been gone. I see Instagram here and there, but
yeah, I get on Instagram. I don't do Twitter at all.
Yeah,
I ain't.
That was
Twitter.
Pure negativity.
Oh my God!
Man, you saw that coming from. Now it's worse. Believe it or not.
I didn't like Malcolm Twitter. I don't like Malcolm X. I don't want either one. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like whatever Twitter evolved into, I don't want either one of them. Right? And it's like I knew back then, even before there was an Elon Musk and he opened the floodgates. It just wasn't good for my mental health because I just feel like nobody should have access to that much opinion about them.
That's a good point.
It's just not good for you. Like, I just don't feel like you should have to, I always say we're in verbally abusive relationships with our smartphones by choice. I would literally get on social media and tweet out, "Thank you, God, for blessing me with another day of life." And there'd be people saying, "Man, I was wishing you died. I was praying you die." I'm like, Jesus Christ, why am I, subjecting myself to that? Every day.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And, another thing, too, as a media personality, it became such an echo chamber, and you would be talking to people, and you would be like, you got that from Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even your original thought on the situation. You don't even really feel like that. You're literally just parroting what you see people on social media say. And it's like, I don't want people to tell me what to think. I don't want people to tell me what to believe.
Yeah.
I challenge myself all the time. And I was at the University of Chicago yesterday with David Axelrod, and I was talking to the students, and I told them this. One of them guys asked me a very brilliant question. He said, one of the students said to me, what is broken in the media ecosystem, right? Because he felt like, the media ecosystem is broken because, these clips and everything are creating these narratives. And I go, the media ecosystem isn't broken at all. Mm-hmm. The way we consume content is. Because a 2-minute clip of Jordan and Charlamagne can go viral. Somebody might take me just saying, I don't like Malcolm X.
Something about Jews, whatever.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I didn't say I don't like Malcolm X. I was making a joke about Twitter, saying how there was a Malcolm Twitter, Malcolm Little, and then it turned into an X, right? So it might have just been a bad joke. But my point is, somebody could take that one little clip, 10 seconds, put it online. Now everybody's just, what do you mean you don't like Malcolm X? Blah, 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 you cool, this and that. And I'm like, I didn't even say that. So you, as a person, have to challenge yourself when you get a 30-second clip or a minute clip or a 2-minute clip. You got to go challenge yourself to watch the whole context of the conversation.
That's like a part-time job, right? So you might as well avoid the whole thing. If you're gonna have to do an hour of fact-checking to make sure this thing someone sent you is real, just avoid all of it.
What would you rather do? Would you rather have that be a part-time job, or would you rather just be, lazy and do a half-ass job?
I would just avoid it altogether. Like, I don't even want the drama. I don't want the little clip. Or the big clip. I just want to play Legos with my kids or something instead.
By the way, that's a good way to handle it, but most people don't. They see that little clip and then they form a whole narrative about it. They form a whole opinion around it, and now people hate Charlamagne or they hate Jordan because of a 30, 45-second clip. I don't like that guy. Based off a 45-second clip, you hate his whole life.
That's right.
Because of a 45-second or a minute-long clip. So the media ecosystem isn't broken. The way we consume content is.
I had, when I interviewed Kobe, R.I.P., a long time ago, about 2-3 months before he passed away, I'd asked him what kind of music he likes. And I said, I thought it would be funny if you had a Taylor Swift CD in your car. And he goes, I love Taylor Swift. That went viral, but people were looking at me like, he must not like Taylor Swift. He was making fun of Taylor Swift. He thought Kobe was going to bite on that. And people were like, they came after me. It was like, Jordan, he tried to shit talk Taylor Swift. I didn't even think about that. I just thought it would be funny if Kobe Bryant had Taylor Swift in his car because he has daughters. He did have Taylor Swift in his car because he has daughters, and he loves Taylor Swift. People wanted to find it was so wholesome, honestly. People wanted to find the negative part of this wholesome clip of Kobe talking up Taylor and how she's a legend, a killer. He called her a killer. And that went viral, and people were like, this Jordan guy sucks. I got so much hate from that, and I had a little glimpse into being like an actual famous person for like 2 seconds because it got like 28 million views on TikTok. People, the comment, I had to stop reading the comments because I started to hate myself. These people hated me.
I'm actually surprised that don't happen to you more because of the fact that you've had this huge platform for so long. Like, we talk for a living. Like, there's so many things people can take out of context.
You know what it is? I ignore TikTok. People, my team doesn't make social media clips that are like for viral appeal. I think other people do it. I don't even know how they make money doing it, but they'll do it. But then they don't tag me in it, right? Because they don't say like, Jordan Harbinger did that. They're like, this is motivational Instagram _IG. So the comments that are negative about me are on accounts that I never see at all.
Yeah.
They're out there. You have to look for them. And I'm like, why am I going to do that to myself? You wouldn't do that to yourself.
It's really a choice.
It is a choice,
I literally, you can be driving, you can be riding in a car or be at home. And like, let me go on YouTube and see what they're saying about me. I can guarantee you they ain't saying nothing good.
No.
Like, they ain't saying a mother thing good about you. So why would you go subject yourself to that level of abuse? For what? And by the way, show me the place where people are actually saying positive things about a person on social media. Like, those moments are so few and far between. That's the reason I like Instagram, because you can like mute words and,
Oh, you can? I didn't know that.
You can mute words and, block certain words, and you curate your content to where you do have like this community where it's like you and the people you actually follow and the people that follow you. And most of the people that follow you, if they're following you, it's because they like you, right?
Except for the psychos, but
Except for the psychos.
And you can block those people.
And those people are insane. Those people are a word that I'm kind of glad is back. What's that? Retarded. And because
is that back? No. That's not back, is it?
I don't know. It's back for me. I like saying it.
I think that's asking for trouble. I mean, look, it's cathartic to say, but I'm pretty sure you get in trouble for
because that is silly, right? Like, that's a form of insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So why are you following me every day?
Yeah.
Why are you leaving comments if you don't like what I do? But there was a theory, back in the day, Howard Stern, they said either twice or 3 times the people, when it came to his ratings, the people who didn't like him listened 3 times as much than the people who actually did.
That's so weird to me. That's so weird. I don't think I consume anything from anybody that I don't like. I don't know why you would do that. People like to be outraged or pissed off.
They definitely do. But guess what? The algorithm don't know the difference, Joey.
Yeah.
So, like, literally, if you start trending right now, it's probably because It's a lot of people it's probably somebody who don't like you, taking a clip out of context, but the people who do like you will be defending you. Like, you got to listen to the whole pod, you idiot.
Yeah, right.
And then it just creates this tsunami on social media. The algorithm don't know. Algorithm just knows Jordan Harbinger's been mentioned 10,000 times in the last 25 minutes.
Well, let's try it right now. What do you think of Taylor Swift?
I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't mean that. I don't. I did a social experiment about Taylor one time when I was on the Brilliant Idiots podcast with my guy Andrew Schultz. I did a social experiment where we were debating about who was bigger, Beyonce or Taylor Swift, and I made up this whole lie called the Michael Jackson law, where I said Beyonce's so big she can't even go eat at restaurants in public because it'll cause like
a stampede or whatever?
And a riot.
I see.
And she'll get charged for that. And I go, but I'm lying. And I want y'all to know that I'm lying. But it doesn't matter that I'm lying because somebody's going to still take that clip and post it online and run with it. Guess what they did, Jordan? They took that clip and posted it online and ran with it. Charlamagne Tha God says that Beyonce can't go out in public because of the Michael Jackson law. I literally told y'all I was lying. That's why one of my favorite books is Ryan Holiday, Trust Me, I'm Lying.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I say that all the time. You should believe me even when I'm lying.
Yeah.
Because I know nobody cares about the truth when the lie is more entertaining.
It's true, yeah.
They don't care about you telling the truth, Jordan. They want people don't care about the truth, period, nowadays. They just want to be entertained.
Oh, that does not bode well.
No,
I
it
do
doesn't.
not. Oh, I hate that. You wrote in the book, we sink to the lowest common denominator. We avoid the big questions by filling our minds with fluff, nonsense that delays action and learning. That's pretty insightful. Tell me what you mean by this.
Well, the book you're talking about is my new book, Get Honest or Die Lying, Why Small Talk Sucks. And I think, it goes back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, digging for the truth is hard. Actually searching for facts is hard. Having your opinion or narrative challenged by truth and facts is hard because there is comfort in, what you want to believe, right? Like, that's where the saying ignorance is bliss comes from. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't know, you can just remain happy. Like, and that thing that you don't know will keep you happy. But then when somebody challenges you or tells you the truth and makes you change your mind, now you questioning yourself, but you shouldn't. Like, you're a human being. Yeah. And intelligent human beings, wise human beings, they have no problem changing their mind when presented with new information. So I think, people have a hard time dealing with the reality of situations. That's another reason I hate, small talk, because, you might come up to me and you have a goal, you have an intention with the conversation you actually want to have with me, but you start taking me down this other timeline of nonsense. Mm-hmm. Oh, my Charlamagne, have you been working out? Oh, I like your jean jacket. Are you like Charlamagne? Oh, your head is so shiny. Like, whatever. It is. Like, bro, what do you want?
I do like that jacket though. That's dope.
Thank you. But what do you want? Yeah. Don't hit me with all the fluff and everything.
That's right.
Let's get right to it. We know what we're here for. What do you want?
That's my favorite is when these AI. Well, you probably didn't even see these, but I get these pictures that are like clearly written by AI, where they're like, "I loved your latest episode on Charlamagne Tha God, Get Honest or Die Lying," and it was so. And then there's a paragraph of shit, and I'm like, "What are you selling me?" And then if you get to the bottom of the 3 paragraphs, it's like, "My new book on financial management for people who live in Canada would be a great fit," and it's like, no, just start with that, and I'll delete this early, and I won't be mad at you for pitching because, shoot your shot.
That's right.
But now I'm mad at you because I had to read 3 paragraphs about my show of you trying to butter me up with ChatGPT. Get this out of here.
You don't have to do that. And another thing is, like, small talk is also when somebody come up to you and be like, "So, Jordan, how are you?" Like, how are you, Jordan?
Like the shallow version. Yeah,
because they don't really care.
They don't care. Yeah.
Like, because either hit them with this, either tell them exactly what's really going on.
Yeah,
I
do that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I just had a vasectomy. My left nut is super swollen and infected. It barely fits in these joggers, dude.
Exactly.
Okay, I just wanted to know what you. Yeah, like
you didn't know. You actually didn't want to know at all because now you're just forced to actually listen to me.
Yeah.
And so I felt like this since COVID. And I think COVID kind of taught us this a little bit. Don't ask people how they're doing if you're not ready for a real answer.
Yeah. I like that.
Because COVID was the moment where everybody had to be still. And, COVID is the moment where a lot of us felt very, very alone. COVID is the moment where a lot of us looked in the mirror and didn't necessarily like what we saw. So if you ask somebody how they are, most people couldn't wait to tell you because
Yeah.
we hadn't been no human contact.
That's
like
right.
you'd go to the store. You know, remember when all of us was going to the store at certain hours with the mask on, and you would see somebody and you'd be talking 6 feet away and be like, "How are you?" You couldn't wait to tell that person what you were really feeling because we didn't have no human contact. And so it's just like, yo, all of that stuff, man, it's just like, yo, be intentional with what you want to say to people. You know what I mean? Like have a goal. Like, don't just come to me bullshitting me, because that's exactly what small talk is. It's just bullshit. Let's just get to the meat of the conversation.
All right, a quick break. I'm going to tell you about something that'll actually make your life a little bit easier. I regularly take shots of Ketone IQ plus caffeine from HVMN. It is 5 grams of ketones, 100 milligrams of caffeine from green tea. So no sugar, no crash, just clean, focused energy. Now, ketones are molecules that your body naturally produces during fasting, intense exercise, or a low-carb, high-fat diet, so aka ketosis. And when glucose, carbs, aren't readily available, your liver breaks down fat into ketones, which then become an alternative fuel source for your brain and muscles. And our body likes using ketones because they're a high-efficiency fuel, especially for the brain and the muscles. Ketone IQ from HVMN skips that whole process, gives you pure, drinkable ketones, so you get the benefits of ketone energy without having to fast for days on end or go full keto. I take it before I hit the gym. It gives me that steady, locked-in energy without making me feel like I'm kind of vibrating a little bit. And I also take it before I need to do a show. Same deal. I feel focused, same steady energy. And it's not just me. Team Visma, Lisa Bike, literally the best pro cycling team in the world. They use Ketone IQ to fuel their races. These guys won the Tour de France twice, dominated all 3 Grand Tours last year. Olympians, Ironman champions, they're all on this stuff because it works. So if you want to try it, go to ketone.com/Jordan. You'll get 30% off your first subscription order and a free 6-pack of Ketone IQ. That's these little things right here. Get energy that actually works. Ketone.com/Jordan. Links in the description. If you're thinking about starting a business or you already have one and maybe logo or branding design is not your strong suit, you're going to love Design.com. With Design.com, creating a standout logo is as easy as it gets. You just pop in your business name and your industry, and in seconds, you're going to get thousands of custom logos to choose from. Every design is handcrafted by top designers and exclusive to Design.com, so you're getting something unique. Once you find a design that you like, you can customize the fonts, the colors, the layouts to make it yours. Then you download all those assets and you're good to go. And Design.com doesn't just stop at logos. They've got tools to help you create all of your branding materials, from website to social media posts to business cards, all perfectly aligned with your brand. If you already have a logo, you can upload it and you get instant access to thousands of design templates that actually match your brand's look and your color scheme. So this tool saves you a lot of time. It lets you focus on growing your business instead of getting stuck in the weeds with marketing materials. With a 4.8-star Trustpilot rating, Design.com is legit amazing. It's run by a friend of mine. The company's been around for a while. They really do care about their customers. Try it for free at design.com/Jordan. That's design.com/Jordan.
You mentioned some categories of small talk. Maybe I'm confused, but you say small talk about God, small talk about dreams, small talk about our kids. But those are real topics. But I guess what you're saying is don't come at it in a fluffy way. Those are real topics. Go deep immediately.
Let's have real conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's have real conversation. That book is literally designed for people who don't know what the larger conversation is they want to talk about. Because I really do feel like we live in a world where we make micros macros. Like, man, this week, well, I don't know when this is coming out, but the week we're recording this, there's been more conversation about can 100 men beat a gorilla?
Yeah, why do I keep seeing this? Why do I keep seeing that? I don't get it. It's a meme or something, right?
There's just been more conversation around can 100 men beat a gorilla than it has been about a president saying they don't know whether they should have to uphold the Constitution.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know how to discuss macro issues.
That's a good point.
We really make micros macros. And it is so strange to me. And I don't know if it's because I go back to what I said earlier. People are trying to avoid the reality.
I think that's it. It's got to be it.
So they just want to escape. It's much easier to talk about can 100 men beat a monkey than it is to talk about, issues that are really impacting us as a society or could impact us as a society.
That's a good point. It's less scary to talk about could 100 men beat a gorilla than it is to be like, hey, do you think if we go to war, your kids are going to get drafted? Like, that's scary, right?
Those are things that we should be talking about.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Because the same vigor that we use to have those conversations on social media, we should be having to, I guess, protect the Constitution.
Probably a good idea.
You know?
Yeah.
Right? To protect democracy. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm not even saying it on like no Democrat, Republican thing.
No, just as a person who wants rights
That's it.
at some point in their country.
That's it.
At some
That
level.
literally, as far as I knew my whole life, that piece of paper was what made America America.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
people are just wiping their ass with that piece of paper, then what are we now?
I remember learning that was like the immutable document that was bulletproof, and now it's like maybe we're just going to ignore it. That scares me. That freaks me out, man.
And man, you know what I hate, Jordan? I hate, because I watch all the networks, right?
That's
my biggest problem
brutal.
is I'm curious.
Yeah.
Like that's my
I can
biggest
relate.
issue. I'm
Yeah.
curious. So I watch everything. I watch Fox, I watch CNN, I watch MSNBC, I watch Young Turks, I watch, PBD. I watch all of the different platforms, right? CNN pisses me off the most.
Why is that?
Even though I love it, it's so entertaining, but because they ask answers.
Oh yeah. I've seen this like on 60 Minutes. Well, they'll just throw the question in and be like, right?
Does Donald Trump have to uphold the Constitution? Yes, he's the president of the United States of America. You know that. Why are you even asking this? Can Donald Trump run for a third term? What? You know he can't. But guess what? The average person doesn't.
Yeah.
So the average
that's
person,
a good point.
The
Shit, I
average
didn't think
person is
about that.
watching CNN and watching y'all debate something that actually has an answer. But being that they're watching you debate it, now they don't know. Now they're questioning it. Now they're calling the radio station or seeing me in the street and telling me I don't know what the I'm talking about. You can run for a third term as president. You
That's
understand what I'm
crazy to
saying?
me. I learned that in like 6th grade. Now I get why you got a security guard. You got people telling you stupid shit all day. Choke that guy out and let me eat my lunch.
Yes, that's what
Jeez.
it is.
One line hit me hard from the book. I really feel this. You said our lives get smaller and smaller as we get older. Tell me what you meant by that.
Our lives get smaller and smaller as we get older because, if you're doing this life thing right, you really start to realize what's important. You stop being a people pleaser and you stop just trying to have a whole bunch of people around you just to make yourself feel better. Like, you know who you can really trust. You know who you really love. Like, you're very cognizant of who makes your energy go up and who makes your energy go down.
Yeah.
And those people who make your energy go down, you really try to stay away from them, So your circle gets so small that it kind of becomes a dot.
Yeah, little bit of a prison. I think. I know you put some thought into this. For me, like my social circle will get smaller, and I'm constantly fighting routine. But I don't feel like my whole life has gotten smaller just because I've got kids, try new hobbies, make new friends. But man, you got to really put energy into that. Or I don't know about you, making friends as a middle-aged man is not easy. It's hard to go up to somebody and be like, hey, that was a fun conversation. We should hang out again. Because it's like vulnerable and other people are busy.
What's
It's
wrong with
weird,
being
right?
vulnerable?
Nothing, but it's not it's not how we're raised. It's something you got to put energy into kind of to swim upstream and make it a habit. I don't think it's natural for most guys our age. Do you?
Yes, I do think it's natural.
Do you?
The reason I tell you why I think it's natural, I think it's natural because, when you make your circle smaller intentionally, right? The universe naturally, God naturally brings people around you that should be around you. I truly believe that. Like, because I'm aware of who I'm sharing space with. Like, I'm intentional about who I'm sharing space with. I wake up in the morning, I go to Breakfast Club. I'm intentional about who that space is. I know who all of those people are in that room. These are the people that, I choose to be around. I like having them around. The energy that, isn't good for us, we try to eliminate. And then, like, I'm not just out and about. Like, of course, when you're going out and about in your everyday life, you're going to run into people, but I'm not just hanging out. I'm leaving the station. I'm getting in my car. I'm going home. I know that me and my wife going to work out. I'm going to be around my kids. I'm going to be around my family. And any place I choose to go, I pay attention to the people that I meet in those moments. I'm talking about, it could be the person sitting next to me on the plane. Me and that person are sharing space, for whatever period of time. And if it's meant for us to have a, conversation and, that might turn into something else, then it naturally will. But you have to be aware of the spaces that you're in and know that everybody you're meeting, you're probably meeting for a reason, especially if you have trimmed the fat and you're intentional about, where you go, who you share space with.
I think it sounds like we're kind of saying the same thing. I'm just saying you got to put energy into it. I personally have to put energy into it because my default nature was just kind of to maybe not pay attention to that. But as I got older, I was like, well, this is going to get lonely if I don't pay attention to this.
And if it's organic and if it's meant to be, it'd be effortless.
Yeah.
It won't feel like you're spending no energy. Like the relationships that you have that you feel like, God damn, you pulling teeth or you spending a lot of energy to try to connect and make happen, that's probably not the relationship for you.
Yeah, you're right.
We don't pay attention to our energy enough, Jordan. Like I am very, very, very aware and cognizant of who and what makes my energy go up and who and what makes my energy go down. And the things that make my energy go down, I don't have time for at 46, almost 47 years old.
I mean, I can absolutely relate to that. You're almost 47?
I'll be 47 June 29th.
Wow. Oh, wow. Happy birthday. That's coming right up.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Do you feel old? I don't feel old. I'm 45.
Do I feel old?
I mean, you're not old objectively, but like, do you feel older or do you just feel more accomplished? Like, do you feel?
I do feel older.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I feel. Man, it's so crazy. I feel so mature, but then so immature at the same time.
I can relate, man. I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at this age, like, and that's why I like, kicking the shit with like my guys like Andrew Schultz and, my homegirls who really just understand that life is about laughing, even in the most serious of situations. Like, and me and my wife, it's like the older we get, the more immature we get. I don't know because we got kids and we like.
That's part of it, I think. Yeah,
we like fucking with our kids. I don't know what it is, but it's like the older I get, the more mature I get, the more responsibilities we have that make us feel like adults. But I feel very immature. Me and my wife say that all the time. We was just having that conversation like, yo, we really adults. Because, we've been together since we was kids. We've been together for 27 years. I'm like, yo, we're really adults. We got 4 kids.
Yeah.
Like,
you almost said 3.
You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about taking our kid, my oldest daughter is doing college visits now.
Oh, that's got to make you feel old.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow.
She's driving. I don't have to. I haven't gotten the courage to let her drive me around.
No, I bet.
She's doing that with my wife, and she did it with her granddad the other day. But for me, I can't do it. But it's just like, to answer your question, do I feel older? Yes, I feel more mature, but I feel more immature too.
Yeah, I can relate. It's hard to explain, but it's definitely. I think it's definitely because of the kids. Because before I had kids, my kids are young, 5 and 3. I definitely was like, I'm not really an adult yet. And then I had kids, and I was like, nope, this is the final frontier of like. You're old, like you have the ultimate responsibility now.
Yeah.
You don't just have a mortgage, which you could shrug off and if you wanted to screw up your life. Like now you got kids, you don't have the option of screwing up anymore.
And I think, because, thank God, all praises due to God for having success.
Mm-hmm.
When you have success and you don't have to worry about certain things, like, certain things are taken care of, like bills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You don't really have those stressors. So literally a lot of your stress only comes from having to deal with other people and their problems.
That's a good point.
Because you've created these boundaries and protected your peace in a way to where, you're good. But then people will always try to make their problems your problems, right? And I think that when you don't have those type of stressors, it's easy to really explore like who you are. And who I am at the core is a very immature you know what I'm saying? Who just likes to laugh, who has a very dark sense of humor, who really doesn't probably take as much things serious as I should. And it's actually fun to be in that space.
That's really funny. That's funny, man. I'm going to change gears a little bit, though. Oh, well, actually, on that note, you mentioned in the book that your anxiety is so bad. You said, I'm wearing a heart monitor right now while you were writing the book. I don't know if you're still doing that because I'm convinced I'm going to give myself a heart attack. You know that stress causes heart attacks, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe I shouldn't have told you that. But you hide it well. You always seemed cool as a cucumber. You're fooling everyone, I suppose.
I don't know if it's fooling or if I had a little bit of sociopathic tendencies.
Really?
Yeah, because I felt like, growing up, my favorite superhero was Wolverine. Like, I got a tattoo of Wolverine on my arm when I was like 18, 19, when like tattoos in South Carolina were illegal. And the thing I used to always
They're
like
really
about
illegal? I didn't know.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
They were illegal back then, back in that day. And it's like I got that tattoo because I always liked Wolverine's loner mentality, but he could be a part of a team if he wanted to. And I liked his healing powers. And I always thought to myself, like, man, that would be so cool. Like, I know Wolverine's healing powers are physical, but it would be so cool if just like emotionally and mentally you could just, heal from everything that bothered you. And I kind of like conditioned myself when I was very, very young to just not let things out of my control bother me. And, you know, the serenity prayer, right? Like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Like, I always felt like if I just stay focused, you know, whatever bad is happening to me in my life in this moment, I ignore, or whatever bad is happening to me in my life is just part of a process, right? And that process is just helping me, you know, that process is just helping me become who I'm supposed to be. I've always kind of had that mentality of like things aren't as bad as they seem to be, or things aren't happening to you, they're happening for you. Like, I've always bought into all of that. So when you say I'm just cool as a cucumber, it's like whatever's going on in that moment, I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Now, I might, you know, break down when I'm alone,
I see.
right? You know, but whatever I'm dealing with, whatever's happening to me in that moment, I'm going to deal with it. But man, when I was young, my anxiety used to be so bad that I would like go hide in the woods for no reason.
Well, I guess not for no reason, but yeah, to be alone, right? To get away from stress.
I would just be having these panic attacks. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what a panic attack was until 2010, and I had gotten fired from radio for the 4th time. I was back living at home with my mother in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. I was like 31, 32. My daughter was like 1 or 2 years old, and I was collecting unemployment checks.
Oh, dang.
And I was driving down I-26 in South Carolina, and you just get that feeling that everything Eminem rapped about on Lose Yourself, palms are sweaty, your knees weak, arms spaghetti, like, you know, and then you got that crazy heartbeat, and you like, you're taking deep breaths, you're pulling over to the gas station to drink water, you like, God, if I'm, you know, about to have a heart attack, please just let me get to the hospital. And so you go to the doctor, and the doctor told me the same thing he's always told me, like, your heart is fine. You got an athlete's heart. He literally said that to me, you got an athlete's heart. But then he said to me, it was like, do you suffer from anxiety? I'm like, what is that? And he's like, anxiety. It sounds like what you were describing was a panic attack. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And he was like, are you stressed out about anything? I'm like, hell yeah. What you talking about? I'm back living at home with my mom. I got fired 4 times. You know, I'm collecting unemployment checks. I don't know what I'm going to do next with my life. I was up here in New York working with Wendy Williams, and I had my own morning show in Philly. Now I'm back at home living with my mom.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what was going on in my life at the time. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, so all I got to do is get another job. Get back in position. Everything will be fine. Breakfast Club comes 2010, December 2010, we start Breakfast Club. Later that year, literally the last week I collect an unemployment check, I start on Breakfast Club the next week. Literally, I had a year of unemployment because I've been fired 4 times and I had too much pride. And, you know, my ego wouldn't allow me to go down to the unemployment office.
I see.
So when I ended up getting fired for that 4th time, I had all of these years of back pay that I was able to get. So I was getting like $1,100 a week for like a whole year. And literally that last week, I got of my unemployment, I ended up on Breakfast Club the next week. But fast forward from 2010 to 2016, I'm having more success than I've ever experienced in my whole life, more money than I've ever made in my whole life. And guess what? I'm not happy.
Really?
Guess what? The panic attacks are still happening. Guess what? The bouts of depression are still there. So it turns out the money didn't fix any of that. Turns out the success didn't fix any of that, right? I had to do a lot of internal work. I just didn't like who I was, right? I didn't like who I was. I had a lot of unhealed trauma that I didn't deal with. I was becoming my father, and I love my father. I'm not sitting there acting like I don't love my father, but my father had a lot of bad habits, and he had a lot of things that I didn't like, especially the way he treated my mom in regards to infidelity, and I was becoming that. I'm the hip-hop radio star, right? Like, you know, I remember there was a superstar comedian who shall remain nameless, who told me one time that all superheroes will one day test out their superpowers because you've never been this version of yourself.
I see.
So I never had been that version of Charlamagne, who's getting write-ups in Rolling Stone magazine and who's making appearances on television and, you know, like all of that type of stuff. Like, you know, you got a New York Times best-selling book. It's like, okay, I had never been that version of myself. And so, you know, yeah, you partaking in the lifestyle, right? In a lot of ways. And I knew that lifestyle was ultimately going to cause me to lose my marriage and cause me to, you know, lose the greatest things to me, which is my wife and my kids. So I had to go do some internal work as a man to say, I don't want to be that. And, you know, whatever it cost me in the future, meaning like, whatever this new version of me that I pray emerges from this work that I'm going to do, whatever it costs me, I'm willing to let it go.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. I went out there and I did that work. And, there was a lot of people who didn't like the change. They didn't like this new version. They didn't like me talking about therapy all the time. See, they still don't in a lot of ways. They
Really?
Don't. Yeah.
Who complains about it? I mean, not your friends.
Nobody that matters.
Nobody that matters, yeah.
You know what
Sure.
I'm saying? Nobody that matters, because what I'm doing now is actually my life's work. What I'm doing now actually gives me purpose, And now I know why I got this Wolverine tattoo on my arm when I was 18 years old. Now I know why I loved Wolverine's healing power, because, and Wolverine is holding a microphone in his hand on my arm as well, too.
That's cool.
So it's because I thought I was going to make it being a rapper.
Oh, I thought maybe you added it later, like, all right, take the phosphorus into a mic. No, okay.
I thought it was going. I got Wolverine holding a mic because I thought I was going to make it as a rapper. Because when you're young and you growing up in the environment that I grew up in, the people you saw that was successful, especially when you're black, were usually in entertainment or athletics. So I thought I was going to be a rapper because that's how everybody was getting out of the hood at that point. And so I got Wolverine holding a mic in his hand. But turned out it was these kind of microphones that I'm talking into now that changed my life, not rap, because I sucked. And then the healing power was I put myself on a healing journey, started talking about that healing journey, which allowed other people to feel free enough to go on their own healing journeys as well. So I feel like my life work now, especially with my organization, my nonprofit, the Mental Wealth Alliance, my job is to help people, especially black people, black men in particular, get on their healing journey so we can show up and be the best versions of ourselves for our wives and our sisters and our daughters and our, friends and family and just our communities, period.
I think that's great. I mean, I remember you said multiple times to me in different conversations that mental health is not prioritized, is deprioritized in the black community. Like you've told me that, I don't know, 100 times. Mm-hmm. And you've said in this, I love this line, you said, I knew I had to deal with my trauma or my trauma would deal with me. And I'm wondering how you see that show up with people, the trauma dealing with them, maybe even especially in the black community.
That's all we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like we talked about Kanye at the beginning of this.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's a good
all
example.
He's doing is trauma dumping.
That's true.
That's all people do. People project their pain onto others. Hurt people. Healed people help other people heal. Like it's really just that simple. Like I can be having a conversation with somebody, black, white, green, Puerto Rican, Asian, whatever it is. I can be having a conversation with them and know, oh, this don't got nothing to do with me. This person is just projecting all of their bullshit and all their unhealed trauma that they haven't dealt with onto me. I can hear a person talking through their wounds. I can hear people talking through the filter of their unhealed trauma. And it's just like, in those moments, you really got to be real with a person and tell them, man, brother, I hope you heal. Sister, I hope you heal. You know what I mean? Because this don't got nothing to do with me. And I'm the person that'll tell them that. Like, look, I know that this don't have nothing to do with me. So whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that you're dealing with, I really hope you heal from it. Because I don't think it's fair to go around projecting, your bullshit onto other people.
Yeah.
And some people don't even know that they're dealing with BS, right? Like they really don't know.
It's pushed way down.
They've suppressed it so much, man. Like there was so many things that I was dealing with that I didn't know I was dealing with. Like I thought it was just anxiety and bouts of depression, but then you go to therapy and you start peeling back all them layers.
Yeah.
And you like, oh, I thought I loved my dad. I hate him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I actually really don't hate him. I just hate that he used to discipline me for things that he never taught me. You know what I mean? I hate that we didn't necessarily have the relationship that I wanted growing up. But it's because he had his own issues. And that was the beauty of me starting to tell my story. Because when I started to tell my story, it helped other people to tell their story. And that's why I always say, in order to eradicate the stigma around mental health, everybody got to tell their story. 2018, man, week of Thanksgiving. I'm home in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. My dad calls me. He just read my second book, which was called Shook One, Anxiety Playing Tricks on Me, which is literally just everything I was learning about myself in therapy. And I got clinical correlations from my man, Dr. Ish Major, in there to talk about those experiences, to give the clinical aspect of those experiences I'm talking about. My dad says to me, yo, I read your book. And it was the same week that my cousin, who used to do a lot of odd jobs with my dad, completed suicide. And so he was like, yo, your cousin completed suicide, and I read your book. And I just want you to know that I was on, I was going to therapy 2 and 3 times a week. And I was on 10 to 12 different medications throughout my life. And I tried to commit suicide 30 plus years ago, but I didn't because of you and your older sister. And I'm like, damn. And so that allowed me to give my dad so much grace. Because I'm like, yo, he's just a man who was dealing with his own issues, and he was just trying to figure it out as well. So he couldn't necessarily be the father for me that he wanted to be because he wasn't even being the man that he needed to be for himself.
Right.
That allowed me to give him so much grace, man, and I have not, you know, thought anything negative about him since then. And what I want to do, and I pray that I get to do this before, you know, either one of us transitions, because you never know nowadays, is I just want to have that relationship, and I want to learn more about my parents. Like, because your parents had a life, you know, before they were your parents. And like me and my dad just had a good conversation a couple weeks ago, and I just learned so much, and it helped me connect certain dots that's going on in my life, because I'm like, oh, that's why I like this place, or that's why I gravitate towards these people, because this is kind of like things my dad passed on, you know, through ancestry, right? But I didn't realize it, you know?
Huh. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge awareness, especially getting that awareness for yourself and then having your own kids. And it's not break the cycle and don't pass that stuff along to your own kids?
If you can pass on generational trauma, then you should definitely be able to pass on generational blessings.
You would hope so. You mentioned this a little bit. You touched on this a little bit earlier. One of the first kinds of small talk you mentioned in the book is you mentioned hip-hop rappers talking about gangster stuff that they would never do in real life. What do you think of the influence on young guys and young girls actually that the hip hop community has? Because from an outside perspective, it does seem dangerous to have role models that are like violence, drugs, crime, hoes, and bitches, and you're just like, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I'm like, I don't know, I wouldn't want that to be my kid's role model.
I don't think you're overthinking it, but you know, it is nuanced. That's why, you know, in the chapter, you know, I talk about it, and you know, I end every chapter by saying, let's discuss, because I want to just open up the conversation. I'm not saying I'm right or saying I'm wrong. Let's just open up the conversation. And so I think it is something to question, you know, but I will say for every negative influence that hip hop has, you know, given me, it's given me the positive influence as well. But how many people are open to that level of balance? How many people even get to that point where they get to an age where they're mature enough and emotionally intelligent enough to understand the nuances of what gangster rap is? Like, don't get me wrong, there's some of it that's just, there is no socially redeeming value to it. It is kill you, your mama, you know, rob your granddad. It is really that, right? It does, you know, we do celebrate, you know, the drug culture, and, you know, we do, you know, glorify the gang culture in a lot of the music. But man, I think that people really are attracted to the entrepreneurial aspect of hip hop, right? And like I said earlier, when you are growing up in a certain environment, the only way out the hood, it feels, is to express yourself, you know, on these microphones. Like, that is a talent that a large generation of people had, and they expressed it, in some great music, you know, did come out of it. But I think it is a fair conversation to have about, is this a lifestyle or a death style? And I think that in a lot of ways it is, if you're being honest, you got to say a lot of it is a death style. But there is, you know, rappers that have influenced me so positively, you know, whether it's the Chuck D's or the Killer Mikes or the Wu-Tang Clans, you know what I mean? Even the people that you think are gangster, like the T.I.s and the Jeezys, if you actually listen to their records, it ain't all of that. But, you know, these guys come from certain environments, and the art reflects the reality of their environment. Like, that's what they say, art reflects life. So you can't be mad at these individuals for, you know, talking about the things that are going on in their community. The problem I have with it is when you have these people who see the gangsters profiting, right? Or see people profiting off of a life that they really did live, an environment they really did come from. But if you listen to their music, they're not necessarily glorifying it. They're just telling you what happened, and they're also telling you the consequences of it. That's why Jay-Z was so dope. Jay-Z had a song, you know, it was all good just a week ago. You know, 1 week you balling, next week you getting hit with a RICO charge, because those are the consequences of that, you know, lifestyle. That people that paint that whole picture in its totality, those are the great artists. The ones who are just, you know, trauma dumping and not even trauma dumping because they didn't even really live that shit. They're just doing it because it's profitable and they see it working for somebody else. So they're just making these murder, kill, slang dope records, but you never actually did that.
Oh, yeah.
You're just doing that because it's the hot thing to do at the moment. Those are the people that I feel like, we got to weed out of this culture.
That's the Vanilla Ice method.
Yeah, that wasn't you. Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely.
I love what you said about the lack of preparation in podcasting. Most hosts, they don't prep at all, and it drives me nuts. It creates noise. It's something we have a lot of already. I love the upside of podcasting, though, man. No gatekeepers. You talk in one of your early books, Put Yourself On. Podcasting's like the peak of that. But it's sort of easy for me to say because you and I, we are rise above the noise a little bit. We're not trying to start something right now, but I love that you said that because I almost feel like podcasters get rewarded for not prepping and just saying the dumbest shit that comes into their brain.
Well, that's our fault. Once again,
Yeah.
It goes back to what is the consumer doing? Like when I talked about earlier about how you got to go out of your way to make sure you're watching the whole context of something.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with, what you choose to consume and share. Because somebody can get on a podcast and, white women are better than black women or black women are better than white, whatever it is. And people will just take that clip and throw it online. And I say this all the time. There is an economy that has been created. And that economy is engagement through enragement. So people literally make money off you being enraged.
Yeah.
They know that shit is stupid. But they don't care. They just want to get y'all going back and forth, arguing with each other, debating with each other online, spending, 2 or 3 days discussing or debating something that don't even make no mother sense.
Yeah.
They know that. And so those are the type of podcasters I don't necessarily like. I like podcasters who, I listen to and actually learn something, or I'm just extremely entertained. And the people who are the great ones are the ones that can do both. That you can sit down. That's why I like, I love listening to, the weekly show with Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
I love listening to, podcasts like the 85 South Show. I love listening to like the Pivot, podcast with
Scott
Ryan
Galloway.
Clark and Fred. No, it's 2 pivots. You're talking about
it's
one
2
with
pivots.
You're talking about Kara Swisher.
I was a little surprised. I was like, Kara Swisher? You're a Kara Swisher fan? That's
I like
funny.
Kara too. Though. I've been on that part. I like Kara and Scott, but I was talking about Ryan Clark and Fred Taylor and Channing Crowder only because these people are entertaining, but also the things they talk about have so much socially redeeming value.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna be intellectually stimulated and laugh. Like my guy Andrew Schultz with Flagrant, like him and Akash and Mark Gagnon and Alex, like they're funny, but they can sit there and kick it with Pete Buttigieg for 2.5 hours, and it can be some really good gems in there. They can sit there with Trump for a couple hours, and it's entertaining, but it's also some gems in there because they're challenging Trump, but you got to watch the whole interview to know that. If you just watch the clips, you just think they're laughing and joking. But if you watch the interview, you're like, oh, they are challenging Trump on some things. So, yeah, the beauty of podcasting is the people who take it serious. And I do think that there's got to be some guidelines, Jordan. Because I'm a guy who has to deal with FCC rules and regulations every morning. I feel like with the way the podcasting industry is, everybody else should have to deal with that too. YouTube should have to deal with that. If YouTube is going to be operating as some sort of news network, because there actually are news networks on there now, whether it's the Midas Touch, whether it's the Young Turks, whether it's the PBDs. These people are operating as news networks.
They are, yeah.
They should have to deal with the same FCC rules and regulations that we do.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I know we have to do it when we do ads. We can't pretend that we didn't get money from somebody, but it should go beyond that. I love free speech, but telling people blatant falsehoods to piss them off and make them make, let's say, a bad medical decision is that's beyond the pale. It's bad for society. Yeah, it's bad for society. I know we're running a little bit tight on time. I'm curious, tell me a little bit about ego. We talked with, we mentioned Ryan Holiday, who's a good friend of mine.
Love Ryan.
Love that guy. Such a super smart dude and a good person. You've had some large personal ego battles, and you touched on this a little bit before, but I won't get into the weeds on it, but you mentioned a concept called ego strength that I'd love to discuss. Tell me what that is.
Ego strength is when you have to lean into your ego for good. Like ego can be good, ego can be bad, but sometimes you have to have just a tad bit of the right ego. I think ego is a problem when it's a wounded ego.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we see a lot of times when I hate to go back to Kanye, but I think a lot of that is wounded ego, right? I think that, the ego that was good. Like when you read Ego is the Enemy, the thing I like about Ego is the Enemy is broken up into 3 parts, right? It's that level of ego that that fuels your confidence, that lets you know you have a talent and you feel like that talent can help you get to that next level of life. Nobody can tell you that you're not talented. Nobody can tell you that what you're doing isn't the right thing to do. You just believe in yourself that much, right? You believe in yourself that much that that good ego propels you to that next level, which helps you to get success. But when you go from the ambitious part, that's the first part, to the success part, that's when you really start to see, what kind of demon, ego can be, especially if you have a wounded ego, especially if you've, got a lot of trauma that you haven't, dealt with, because success, money doesn't change you. It just amplifies whatever you already are.
Yeah, who you are already. Yeah, scary.
Scary. So
Yeah.
if you already are a hurt motherfucker, you're just going to be more of a hurt motherfucker, regardless, right? And so then, if you don't deal with that ego, if you don't read books like Ryan Holiday, Ego is the Enemy, and you don't learn from other people whose ego has destroyed them, that talent will take you where your character can't sustain you. And then that's when the third part comes, right? It's ambition, it's success, and then it's the failure. Because the failure can come because you didn't get your ego tamed, because you didn't, heal the wounds that exist in that ego. And that is what causes people to ultimately crash and burn.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with that. It's tough, and I can relate. You ever still get imposter syndrome? You know what that is?
Oh, man.
Where you feel like I'm a second away from being found out I don't belong here.
I don't anymore.
No?
And I'll tell you when I got to a place of worthy. I got to a place of worthy December of 2021.
Wow. Okay, so 11 years after the Breakfast Club starts.
Yeah, just like maybe might have been even December of 2022. But I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting in a chair in my old house. Actually, it was before that. I'm lying. This was like December 2019 because we hadn't moved yet. We moved around 2021. So I was in my old house and I was sitting upstairs, and I literally just got hit with worthiness. I literally got hit with a sense of worthy. And a sense of worthy is something that I had been dealing with for a long time because of imposter syndrome. And I had a great conversation with Bishop T.D. Jakes one time, and it's public, so I don't mind saying it. And he said to me, even if you don't think you're worthy, just know that God knows you're worthy. And then we had some other conversations, around imposter syndrome and why some of us have imposter syndrome. And it literally just hit me in that moment. I'm like, yo, thank you, God. I'm in this position that I'm in because this is the position that God wants me to be in. And not just even professionally. I am a husband to this beautiful wife and a father to these beautiful kids because God feels like I'm worthy to be that for them. And it's just like, it just all clicked for me in that moment. And I have not dealt with imposter syndrome since then. But also it's because I also feel like I'm walking in my purpose too, Jordan. I'm walking in my purpose. Like I'm not just doing radio and doing TV and the podcast and the books and getting into the film world just for my own ego. Like I'm really of service. I really truly feel like that. I feel like, the work I do with the Mental Wealth Alliance, or, when I'm able to provide scholarships for HBCU students, or, I'm able to provide jobs because, me and my wife, invested in Crystal's franchises. Like,
What's that?
The hamburger spot down south.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that.
So, but it's not even just that. It's like the Black Effect Podcast Network, or the company me and Kevin Hart have. We're able to employ people and provide jobs. So not only am I doing what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing, walking in my purpose, helping people heal because I'm telling my story about healing, but also I'm able to provide opportunity and jobs for folks who may not necessarily, get those opportunities anywhere else. So I feel like I'm really walking in my purpose and I'm doing exactly what God wants me to do. So therefore, I don't have no imposter syndrome from that because I'm doing what I know God wants me to do. So if you're in the place that God wants you to be, how could you ever feel like an imposter? And if you know you're in the place that God wants you to be, how could you ever feel like an imposter?
Charlamagne, man, thank you for being so open. You wear
Jordan,
this on your
thank you,
sleeve.
brother. I love doing this pod, man. We can't go so long without doing it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I love it. I think it's admirable you wear a lot of this stuff on your sleeve and you're open about it. It'd be easier for you in some ways if you hid it all, but you don't choose that easy road because I think you know that the best road is the one that you're taking, like the most appropriate one.
And I'm too dumb to hide it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. I'm too dumb to cover it up. What else would I have to talk about?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan.